Hey guys, Level Cap here, and today we're taking a much overdue look at Rainbow Six Siege. We're going to be checking out some of the brand new Crystal Guard content, and I want to give some new player advice if you're just getting back into the game. I'd also like to thank Ubisoft for sponsoring this video. Use my link in the description to grab Rainbow Six Siege and learn more about the update. Siege is also free to play, including all 60 operators from the 9th to the 12th. And if you're enjoying the game, you can pick the game up for $5 during the free-to-play weekend. Now, Rainbow Six Siege is a game that really defined a new era of Ubisoft development. Back in 2015, when Siege was first launched, the concept was new and extremely innovative. However, the game did have a rocky start, to say the least. Myself and many others were expecting it to have a much shorter shelf life based on the game's health during its initial launch. But the concept for Siege was so strong and interesting that the game managed to capture a core demographic willing to push past the technical issues, and Ubisoft went full steam ahead with their support for the game, even delaying DLC to instead focus on much needed health updates for the game. And today, many years later, the results speak for themselves, as it's now one of the most popular FPS games on the market. It has a massive esports scene and is a truly unique game that evolved the tactical FPS genre into an entirely new beast. Now, if you've never played Siege before, or you're coming back to the game after a hiatus and a bunch of things have changed, I have a few tips to make that learning curve a bit easier when getting back into the game. The first tip revolves around one of the most important phases of any match, and that is operator selection. Over the years, Siege has gotten a ton of new operators built around entirely different types of utility. Operators like Flores, Dokkaebi, Mosey, and Oryx are all very powerful if you know how to use their gadgets effectively, but that generally requires a lot of practice and detailed map knowledge. And if you're just getting into the game or back into the game, you'll probably want to pick an operator that's a bit more straightforward. And when it comes to the offensive side of the game, there's a reason that attackers pick Ashe in like 80% of all matches. Her breaching rounds let you blast open breakable surfaces at a distance, and her R4C assault rifle is easy to control and a very powerful weapon, even if you're not nabbing those headshots, which you should be going for. Other solid attacker picks are Ace, Maverick, Jackal, and Fuse. They all let you breach and clear rooms without the risk of totally exposing yourself to the enemy. And their strength is less reliant on specific map layouts and gadget exploits, and much more in general firefights and breaching utility. There's going to be few situations in which these operators are not extremely useful. Now, on the attacking side, one of the big new additions with the Crystal Guard update is the operator Osa. She has a portable clear shield that can be deployed on windows, in doorways, and planted on the floor like a regular shield. It's bulletproof and opens up all sorts of crazy opportunities for the attackers. So if you're new to the game, you might want to take some time to familiarize yourself with her gear, since a lot of people will be picking her. One of the more interesting things about Osa's shield is that it actually protects her while she's holding it up. She can't use her pistol at the same time like other shield attackers, but she can use it to shield herself while she's getting into position and deploy it. This makes her an incredibly versatile and potentially aggressive operator. The shield can also be picked up after being placed, greatly extending its otherwise limited quantity. Now, of course, Osa's shield is not impervious. Melee hits turn it opaque, and explosives can destroy it. There's also a pressurized gas canister on the back that destroys the shield when shot. That makes it more vulnerable than normal shields, but again, the utility of it being able to protect her, being placeable, gives her a big advantage in lots of situations. Osa can be currently unlocked via the Battle Pass by leveling up the premium tier. She'll also be available for purchase with Renown or R6 credits in 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to playing the defender side of the game, of course, operator selection is just as, if not more important. Currently, the most popular picks are anti-utility defenders like Jaeger and Wamai. Their gadgets are place and forget counter-utility devices that stop incoming grenades and other attacker gadgets. They're also incredibly powerful since they essentially prevent flash and smoke rushes from happening. Just place their gadgets near objectives and stay put to defend. Now, if you really want to take a backseat to placing important gadgets, well, Rook is definitely your best bet. He drops armor plates for his team at the start of the round that gives anyone who picks it up bonus HP. This is of course a huge advantage, and all it requires you to do is drop the gadget at the start of the round. His P90 SMG can be devastating in close quarters, letting you take out multiple enemies without reloading between kills. Now, a personal favorite defender of mine is Aruni. Her gadget is a laser grid that can cut off enemy access through doors, windows, and breakable walls. You get to place 3 of them, so just throw them on exterior windows or entryways at the start of the round and you're good to go. Once the laser grid is tripped, it'll be deactivated. After about 20 seconds, you can rearm it by shooting it. She can also punch bigger holes in the walls and destroy barricades in a single hit. She's great for slowing down the enemy team without having to create hard barricades that your team needs to work around. Now, aside from picking the right operators, one of the most important things to keep in mind is that Siege is a tactical FPS where headshots and smart plays are everything. Sprinting into a site expecting to clear the whole room yourself with your MLG Pro skills just is a really bad idea. You gotta work the maps and angles methodically. Always check your corners, trying to be aware of your angles of exposure, and aim for the head whenever possible. And while each round may have a timer, don't feel too much pressure to move in quickly because of that timer. Defenders can use the threat of positional advantage to delay attackers and run out the clock. And attackers will use most of the round to open up that sites to take away the defender's advantage. Most rounds often come down to the final few seconds, and rushing in because there's only 30 seconds left on the clock is a good way to run right into a Capcam charge or frost trap. So do your best to be mindful of the clock, push your angles methodically and slowly as needed so that you're in a good position when you need to make the final attack. Now, of course, on the defender side of things, a very important thing to consider is that all reinforced walls can act as double-edged swords. Placing them on walls between objectives prevents you from going between bomb sites quickly. This can give the attackers a huge advantage over whatever site they manage to breach initially. Until you understand all the nuances of defensive strategy, it might make more sense to reinforce exterior walls and hatches that give attackers direct access, and maybe let your more experienced teammates deal with walling off the interior walls. Now, of course, one of my last newbie tips is to experiment. As part of the fun with Rainbow Six Siege, you get to pick all these different operators that all play slightly differently than one another, and they bring something else to the table. And while it might be attractive to approach the game with the mindset of just picking your favorite operator all the time and trying to master that operator, being good or at least knowledgeable of every operator on the field not only gives you an option when some of your favorites are picked in a match, but also it gives you an idea of how to play against them, because you'll kind of be more aware of those operators' utilities and gadgets and when they're going to try and use them during a match. So while picking Ashe whenever possible is generally good advice for a novice player, you might actually find out that you're better with Hibana or Kali. Now, of course, Osa isn't the only new addition to operators when it comes to new content in Crystal Guard. The update also balances some existing operators. The highlights for me are the changes to Twitch's drone and Fuse's cluster charge. Twitch's shock drone now has a laser instead of a projectile, and it can jump like a regular drone. This is a pretty big quality of life change that should make shock drones easier to use. When it comes to Fuse's cluster charge, it can now actually work on reinforced surfaces. Also, the way in which it works has also changed quite a bit. The first puck that it fires actually creates a hole that lets defenders shoot the gadget, stopping it from launching more pucks. Also, that hole will not be peekable. What makes this change a big deal is that objective rooms generally end up pretty well fortified, giving the defenders a lot of strong cover and places to deploy utility. Fuse has been the go-to operator for displacing defenders, but placing his charge pretty much requires exposing yourself to getting shot through some breakable cover. His gadget also becomes completely useless once you run into reinforced walls, which means that on some maps that are properly defended or reinforced, it can be really hard finding a Fuse spot. This update makes him so much more useful in so many more situations, and I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of Fuse players right now. Now, of course, it wouldn't be a new season for Siege without some map changes. This time around, Ubisoft made a handful of smaller tweaks instead of doing a massive rework of a single map. Coastline and Clubhouse all feature new pathways, cover, and quality of life improvements. Clubhouse's stock bomb room site has been replaced by 2 sites in the bar area. A new doorway connects them behind the bar. Coastline's windows give less visibility on approaching attackers, while attackers have been given a new route to the main building's roof. bank also got several significant tweaks. There's a new alley between the bank entrance and manhole spawns that gives the attackers a quick rotation path to the back of the map. The second floor map got extra cover, and the windows that gave attackers visibility on it have been boarded up. And all the bulletproof metal bars in the vault area have been removed, which is something that I think a lot of people are excited about. Under the hood, all 3 of these maps have been rebuilt to meet Siege's modern technical standards. That means better environmental destruction, lighting, and sound propagation. Now there's also a couple of cool new additions and changes to the game outside of maps. Elite customization is finally a thing. You can mix and match elite uniforms for individual operators. Health has replaced operator armor now. 1 armor level operators now have 100 HP, 2 armor operators now have 110 HP, and 3 armor operators now have 125 HP. Enemies now also have a more distinct rim light that makes them stand out against dark backgrounds or textures that they might otherwise blend into. It can also be disabled in the options menu if you prefer it off, but it would put you at a disadvantage. Overall, this is a very significant update from Rainbow Six Siege, and it's always fun to watch this game grow and just get a little bit better and better every time DLC and new content drops. Again, I'd like to thank Ubisoft for sponsoring this video. Go check out Rainbow Six Siege, dive into Crystal Guard using my link in the video description. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap signing off.